My husband's sister tried to get me to pay for her wedding after I refused. She lied and told him our baby wasn't his. I never thought I'd be writing here, but recent events have left me feeling lost and unsure of what to do. My name is Sarah, I'm 28 years old, and I've been married to my husband James, 30, for 3 years. We have a 6-month-old daughter named Lily. James and I met in college 6 years ago. We were in the same study group for our economics class, and we hit it off immediately. James was always kind and attentive, and we shared similar goals and values. After dating for 2 years, we got engaged and married a year later. Our relationship has always been solid, or at least I thought so until recently. To give you some context, James comes from a large, close-knit family. He has 2 older sisters and a younger brother. I'm an only child, so being part of such a big family was new and exciting for me at first. James's oldest sister, Emma, 33, has always been the one in charge. She's 3 years older than James and has always taken her role as the big sister very seriously. When James and I first started dating, Emma was welcoming but also a bit overbearing. She would often give unsolicited advice about our relationship or make comments about how James should be treating me. At the time, I didn't think much of it. I chalked it up to her being protective of her brother and wanting the best for him. As time went on, I started to notice that Emma's controlling behavior extended beyond just giving advice. She would often make decisions for family gatherings without consulting anyone else, and she expected everyone to go along with her plans. If anyone disagreed, she would guilt-trip them or make passive-aggressive comments. Despite this, James and I managed to maintain a good relationship with Emma and the rest of his family. We would have regular family dinners, celebrate holidays together, and even went on a few family vacations. I tried my best to fit in and be a part of the family dynamics. When James and I announced our engagement, Emma took it upon herself to plan most of our wedding. While I appreciated her enthusiasm, it sometimes felt like she was taking over. She had strong opinions about everything from the venue to the flowers to the guest list. James would often side with her, saying it was easier to go along with what Emma wanted than to argue. After we got married, things settled down for a while. Emma got busy with her own life and career, and James and I focused on building our life together. We bought a small house in the suburbs and started talking about having children. When I got pregnant with Lily, Emma became very involved again. She would constantly call or drop by unannounced to check on me, give me pregnancy advice, and even try to dictate what I should eat or how I should exercise. While I appreciated her concern, it often felt suffocating. Lily was born 6 months ago, and she's been the light of our lives. However, having a baby has also put a strain on our finances. I'm currently on maternity leave, and we've had to budget carefully to make ends meet. This brings us to the current situation. Emma recently got engaged to her boyfriend of 2 years, Chris. They're planning to get married in a few months, but they're having financial difficulties. Emma has always been the type to want a big, extravagant wedding, and it seems like her plans are exceeding their budget. Last week, Emma called James and asked if we could contribute $15,000 towards their wedding venue. When James told me about this request, I was shocked. That's a significant amount of money, especially considering our current financial situation with a new baby and me being on maternity leave. I explained to James that we simply couldn't afford to give that much money right now. We have our own bills to pay, and we're trying to save for Lily's future. James seemed to understand and agreed to tell Emma we couldn't help. However, Emma didn't take the news well. She called me later that evening and accused me of being selfish and not caring about family. She said that family should always help each other out and that if the roles were reversed, she would do anything to help us. I tried to calmly explain our financial situation, but she wasn't listening. She even went as far as to say that I was controlling James and keeping him from helping his family. After that phone call, things got tense. Emma stopped talking to me altogether and started spending more time with James. She would constantly invite him over for dinner or ask him to help with wedding planning. At first, I didn't think much of it, but I started to notice that James was becoming more distant. One night, James came home late from Emma's house. He was acting strange and wouldn't look me in the eye. When I asked what was wrong, he just said he was tired and went to bed. I knew something was off, but I didn't want to push him. A few days later, everything fell apart. James confronted me with some information that Emma had apparently shared with him. According to Emma, she had overheard some of my old friends talking about how I had been unfaithful during my pregnancy. She even showed James some text messages as proof of my alleged infidelity. I was completely blindsided. The text messages were entirely fabricated, conversations between phone numbers I didn't recognize, discussing an affair that never happened. I couldn't believe Emma would go to such lengths just because we couldn't afford to contribute to her wedding. I immediately denied the accusations, but I could see that James was torn. He didn't want to believe it, but Emma's manipulation was clearly affecting him. I even offered to take a paternity test to prove that Lily is his daughter, but the fact that we were even in this situation broke my heart. Now, I'm at a loss. I love James, and I thought we had a strong relationship, but I can't believe he's letting Emma's lies come between us. I don't know how to handle this situation or how to make James see that Emma is manipulating him. I'm worried about the future of our marriage and the impact this will have on Lily. I'm looking for advice on how to deal with this situation. How can I make James see the truth? Should I confront Emma directly? Is there any way to salvage my relationship with James's family, or is it time to set firm boundaries? Any insights or suggestions would be greatly appreciated. Update: when it's been a week since my initial post, and I wanted to provide an update on the situation. First, I want to thank everyone for their kind words and support. It's been incredibly helpful to have a community to turn to during this difficult time. After reading through the comments and considering the advice I received, I decided to have a serious conversation with James. I needed to understand if he truly believed Emma's lies or if he was just confused and caught in the middle. Last night, after we put Lily to bed, I sat down with James in our living room. I told him we needed to talk about what was happening and how it was affecting our marriage. At first, James was defensive. He said that Emma had never lied to him before, and he was struggling to understand why she would do this now. He admitted that if there was any chance that what Emma said was true, he felt he needed to know. I reminded James that he knew me better than anyone else. We've been together for 6 years, and I've always been loyal to him. I told him that while I was willing to take a paternity test to put his mind at ease, I couldn't live in a marriage where my integrity was constantly questioned. That's when James revealed something that made the situation even more complicated. Apparently, Emma had told him more than just the infidelity accusation. She claimed that she had overheard me talking to a friend about how James wasn't making enough money to support our family, and that I might find someone else who could provide better for us. I was stunned. I remembered having a conversation with my friend about financial stress after Lily was born, but it was nothing like what Emma had described. We were discussing the challenges of living on one income and how we were managing our budget. Emma had twisted an innocent conversation into something malicious. James admitted that he felt torn between his sister and me. He didn't want to believe that Emma would lie about something so serious, but he also knew that I had never given him any reason to doubt me. I could see the conflict in his eyes, but what hurt me the most was that he hadn't immediately stood up for me against Emma's accusations. I told James that I couldn't stay in this marriage if he didn't trust me enough to stand by me against his sister's manipulations. I explained that Emma's behavior wasn't just about the money for the wedding anymore, she was actively trying to sabotage our marriage. I asked James why he thought Emma would go to such extreme lengths, and if he had ever seen her act this way before. James was quiet for a long time. He then shared some information about Emma's past relationships that shed some light on her behavior. Apparently, Emma had always struggled with maintaining long-term relationships. Her last serious boyfriend had left her for another woman, and it had deeply affected her. James wondered if Emma's current actions might be stemming from her own insecurities and fear of abandonment. While this information helped me understand Emma's motivations a bit better, it didn't excuse her behavior. I told James that regardless of Emma's past, her actions were causing real damage to our family. I explained that if he wanted our marriage to work, he needed to confront Emma and establish clear boundaries. James agreed that he needed to talk to Emma, but he seemed hesitant. He asked for some time to process everything and figure out how to approach his sister. While I understood his need for time, I also felt that I needed some space to clear my head. I decided to pack some of Lily's and my things and stay at my parents' house for a few days. I told James that I loved him, but I needed him to really think about our future and what kind of relationship he wanted to have with both me and Emma. It's been 3 days since that conversation, and I haven't heard much from James. He sent me a text asking if I would reconsider coming home, but I told him I needed more time. I'm struggling with my own emotions, anger at Emma for her manipulations, disappointment in James for not immediately standing by me, and fear for the future of our marriage. My parents have been supportive, giving me space to think while helping with Lily. They've urged me to consider couples therapy with James, suggesting that having a neutral third party might help us navigate this complex situation. I'm also considering reaching out to James's other siblings or his parents to get their perspective on the situation. However, I'm worried that involving more family members might make things even more complicated. As for Emma's wedding, I've heard through mutual friends that she and Chris are still moving forward with their plans, despite the financial issues. Part of me wonders if this whole situation was a desperate attempt to secure money for her dream wedding, regardless of the cost to her relationships. At this point, I'm not sure what the future holds for my marriage. I love James, and I want our family to stay together, but I also know that I can't continue in a relationship where I'm not trusted and respected. I'm hoping that James will confront Emma and stand up for our marriage, but I'm preparing myself for the possibility that he might not be able to do that. I'm considering my options moving forward. Should I suggest couples therapy to James? Is it worth trying to have a conversation with Emma myself, or would that only make things worse? How do I protect Lily from all of this family drama? I'll keep you updated on any developments. Thank you again for all your support and advice during this difficult time. Update 2. It's been 2 weeks since my last update, and I wanted to share the latest developments in this ongoing situation. After spending a week at my parents' house, James asked me to come home so we could talk. I agreed, hoping that he had taken the time to reflect on our conversation and confront Emma about her lies. When I arrived home, James told me that he had indeed spoken to Emma. However, the conversation didn't go as I had hoped. According to James, when he confronted Emma about her accusations, she broke down crying. She claimed that she was only trying to protect him and that I was twisting everything to make her look bad. Emma doubled down on her lies, telling James that she had actually seen me meeting up with another man, something that never happened. She said she didn't mention it before because she didn't want to hurt James, but now she felt she had to tell him the whole truth. James relayed this conversation to me, and I could see that he was still torn. He admitted that Emma's behavior seemed manipulative, but he couldn't shake the doubt she had planted. He said he wanted to believe me, but Emma's conviction made him unsure. I was devastated. After everything we had been through, after all the years we had spent together, James still couldn't fully trust me over his sister's baseless accusations. I realized that the only way to put this to rest once and for all was to go through with the paternity test I had offered earlier. I scheduled the test for the following day. The wait for the results was agonizing. James and I barely spoke during this time, the tension between us palpable. When the results finally came back, they confirmed what I had known all along: James was 100% Lily's father. I showed James the results, hoping this would be the end of Emma's influence over our marriage. James was visibly relieved, but for me, the damage was already done. He apologized profusely, saying he had been caught up in Emma's lies and felt ashamed for letting it get this far. But I couldn't forget how he had doubted me. I had given him every reason to believe in me, in our relationship, and he had chosen his sister's manipulations over the years we had spent building our life together. I told James that while I still loved him, I couldn't trust him anymore. The fact that he had let Emma's lies come between us had shaken the foundation of our marriage. I explained that I needed time to figure out if I could ever fully trust him again. James asked what this meant for our future. I told him that for now, I would be staying at my parents' house with Lily. I needed space to think about what I wanted and what was best for our daughter. As for Emma, I made it clear to James that I couldn't have any contact with her for the foreseeable future. I told him that if he wanted any chance of salvaging our marriage, he needed to set firm boundaries with his sister and make it clear that her behavior was unacceptable. James agreed to talk to Emma again and to tell her that her actions had serious consequences. He said he would also speak to his parents and other siblings about the situation, as he realized that Emma's behavior was not just affecting our marriage but the entire family dynamic. I've been staying at my parents' house for the past week. James has been trying to make amends, calling every day to check on Lily and me, and offering to go to couples therapy. While I appreciate his efforts, I'm still not sure if our relationship can recover from this breach of trust. I've been focusing on taking care of Lily and myself. I've started looking into going back to work earlier than planned, as I feel I need to secure my own financial independence. My parents have been incredibly supportive, offering to help with childcare if I decide to return to work. As for Emma's wedding, I've heard through mutual friends that there's been some tension between her and Chris. Apparently, Chris found out about some of the lies Emma had been spreading, and he's having second thoughts about the wedding. I can't help but feel that Emma's actions are finally catching up with her. I'm still unsure about what the future holds for my marriage. Can James and I rebuild the trust that's been broken? Is it worth trying to maintain a relationship with his family after all that's happened? How do I protect Lily from all of this drama as she grows up? I'll continue to update as things develop. Thank you all for your continued support and advice during this difficult time. Update 3. It's been 2 months since my last update, and I wanted to share where things stand now. After much soul-searching and several attempts at reconciliation, James and I have decided to officially separate. The trust that was broken proved too difficult to rebuild, at least for now. While James made efforts to make amends, including going to therapy and limiting contact with Emma, I couldn't shake the feeling that he didn't fully have my back when it mattered most. The decision to separate wasn't easy, especially considering we have Lily to think about. However, I realized that staying in an environment of distrust and resentment wasn't healthy for any of us, particularly our daughter. Lily and I are now settled in with my parents. They've been incredibly supportive, helping with childcare and giving me the space to figure out my next steps. I've started looking into going back to work, and I've had a few promising job interviews. The idea of financial independence is both exciting and scary, but I know it's necessary for me to move forward. James and I are working on co-parenting Lily. We've established a visitation schedule, and for the most part, it's going smoothly. James comes to see Lily several times a week, and he takes her for weekends every other week. It's been challenging to adjust to this new dynamic, but we're both committed to putting Lily's needs first. I've made it clear to James that unless he fully distances himself from Emma's toxic influence, I can't consider reconciliation. He's been seeing a therapist to work through his family issues, and he tells me he's started to recognize patterns of manipulation in his relationship with Emma that he hadn't noticed before. As for Emma, her actions have had far-reaching consequences. Her wedding to Chris was called off after he discovered the extent of her lies and manipulative behavior. From what I've heard, Chris was appalled when he found out how Emma had tried to sabotage our marriage. The cancellation of Emma's wedding seems to have been a wake-up call for James's family. His parents and other siblings, who were initially reluctant to get involved, have started to acknowledge the problematic dynamics within the family. They've reached out to me to apologize for not stepping in sooner and have offered their support. James has told me that Emma is now facing some serious repercussions for her actions. Not only did she lose her relationship with Chris, but she's also experiencing strain in her relationships with other family members and friends who have learned about her behavior. I've heard she's started seeing a therapist to work on her issues, but I'm keeping my distance and focusing on my own healing. As for me, I'm taking things one day at a time. The separation from James has been difficult, but it's also given me a chance to rediscover myself. I've joined a support group for single parents, which has been incredibly helpful. It's comforting to connect with others who understand the challenges I'm facing. I've also been working on setting boundaries, not just with James's family, but in all aspects of my life. This experience has taught me the importance of standing up for myself and trusting my instincts. Lily is doing well, all things considered. She's growing so fast and is such a happy baby. James and I are doing our best to shield her from any tension and to provide her with a loving, stable environment, even if it looks different from what we had initially planned. Looking ahead, I'm not sure what the future holds for James and me. While I still care for him, rebuilding trust will be a long and challenging process. For now, I'm focusing on being the best mother I can be to Lily and on building a stable, independent life for us. I want to thank everyone who has offered support and advice throughout this ordeal. Your kindness and wisdom have been a source of strength during this difficult time. While this isn't the outcome I had hoped for when I first posted here, I'm hopeful for what the future might bring. I've learned a lot through this experience, about myself, about relationships, and about the importance of surrounding yourself with people who truly support and respect you. It's been a painful journey, but I'm emerging stronger and more self-aware. To anyone else going through similar challenges, remember that it's okay to prioritize your own well-being and that of your children. Trust your instincts, seek support when you need it, and don't be afraid to set boundaries, even with family. Thank you all again for your support. I may not update for a while as I focus on this new chapter of my life, but I'm grateful for the community I found here.